everyone is so preoccupied with who is the best CSGO player. But maybe the real question is, when was the best CSGO player? Okay, before we get into it, I wanted to let you all know that we at theScore Esports have an official Face It clan. You can join totally for free, climb the leaderboards, and win points. You can play with your friends, or you can even play with Dimitri. He streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, so if you're looking to pug, feel free to hop in. You can find the link in the description below. Who is the GOAT is a very common question in CSGO, and it can be a very difficult one to answer. Do you go with mechanical skill, cultural significance, achievements? Every new qualifier that you add is going to bring you to a different conclusion. And currently, there's 2, maybe 3 players that make up the bulk of this conversation. However, many of the best players to ever touch the game didn't play at the same level during the same eras as others, so it feels unfair to ignore 10+ years of competitive play, right? Well, the official CSGO Face It account was thinking the exact same thing, because just the other day they posed this question: who is the scariest player in their prime? Now, answering that question will obviously take all day, and I'm sure in the comments 95% of you will still be upset at the conclusion I come to. So, for the sake of my own sanity and time, I'm just going to pluck some of the biggest names from their list and try to make a case for them. And what better place to start than the beginning of CSGO's competitive life, when the dynamic duo of GetRight and Forest owned the spotlight. The 2 Swedes quite literally dominated the game during this era with their now infamous 87-0 map win streak. And GetRight stood ever so slightly higher, having been named HLTV's #1 player 2 years in a row. GetRight was slapping the piss out of his opponents at basically every encounter, and was the highest rated player on his team for 2 years straight. Now, old heads for this reason might say that GetRight had the deadliest prime, but others point out that since CSGO was technically in its competitive infancy, it's hard to judge what level GetRight would be at if he was playing today. And I would somewhat agree. Listen, GetRight is probably the founding father of CSGO to many, and I don't want to discredit the skill of his opponents at the time, but it's hard to ignore that caveat. That being said, maybe GetRight was so good that he just made everyone else look like shit. I'm open to that argument. Now, as we move out of the NIP era, things truly started to open up, and this is when you can start making a case for a lot of the other dudes on this list. I mean, Snax was a rock-solid monster, and in Flush's prime, everyone thought he was f***ing cheating. However, there's one guy who many claim to be the game's first superstar, a guy who played so intelligently, future pros modeled themselves after his likeness. AWP Master.
All right, so we take a look there. You're going to start to push up there towards that catwalk. Nice native cover coming over the top there. Able to pick up one. Oh! You are kidding! Yes.
He dismantled the reign of NIP. He won 2 majors and is a part of 3 graffitis. AWP Master was infallible, and for most of 2015, he dominated almost every single stat line. So, who could have a better prime than that? Well, if you asked Olaf himself, Kenny S. Yes, in a 2015 interview, during his prime, Olaf said that the only player he was scared of was Kenny S. But why would the best player of that time be afraid of someone who, statistically speaking, wasn't as good? Well, case in point, Kenny S was the only guy that could do shit like this.
Manages to get out the exposed position, picks up the frag onto Alu, goes for the quick second shot. Forest is causing, oh my goodness, so much damage done here by Kenny S. Another frag found, and again Kenny S.
Kenny S was so good with the AWP for years that it's a widely believed conspiracy that Valve nerfed the gun because of him. And although Guardian was equally as skilled as him at the same time, Kenny S was the one to walk away with a major and an MVP. Why? Because he hit his shots at the right time, and he did it in style.
The fast pushes from Titan have been called and found out, but there's Kenny S with 2, and a 3rd as well, and a 4th! Unbelievable play from Kenny, and he gets the ace!
Now, in response to that Face It tweet, many seem to believe that Kenneth was in fact the deadliest player in his prime, and although I don't agree, I'm not going to argue with that against Kenny lovers. But if we're gonna be biased here, I gotta bring up Coldzera. It is in my humble opinion that Coldzera had the scariest peak of all time. and I would love to explain why. In the span of 2 years, Cold came out of fucking nowhere to win 2 majors, 8 MVP awards, back-to-back HLTV #1 ratings, and dominated the stat lines for almost every big event before unceremoniously crashing into the fucking ground. If that is not a scary peak, I don't know what is. And if you want the anecdotal evidence everybody loves so much, where do I start?
That could be the difference maker here in this round. Dennis is spamming up through the bench, leaving Coldzera in a 1-on-4. There's the first. Looking for a second, he connects it. Oh, and he gets a third as well! Surely he's not going to pull this one off. Oh, Coldzera! The man, the myth, the beast!
So that answers it, right? Prime Coldzera was the greatest of all time. Thank you, Devin, for enlightening us. We love you so much. You're correct. Not quite. Yes, although I feel like 2016-2017 Cold was the scariest peak, and others may feel like it's Kenny pre-nerf, there is a right answer, and not everyone's gonna love it. I know you are all getting very tired of me saying this word, but statistically speaking, 2021 Simple is the highest peak in CSGO history. And even after his phenomenal performance this year, I don't think Zybu can top it. From impact rating to multi-kill rounds to overall damage output, Simple was him in 2021. His performance that year won him his major and solidified him as player of the decade. It might not be the fun or spicy answer, but it's probably the correct one. With that said, I really want to hear from you guys. Did Simple in fact have the highest peak of all time, or do HLTV stat lines only tell half the story? More importantly, someone in the comments please let me know why it's actually Nico and how I'm a big f***ing idiot for not bringing him up. Cheers. Everyone thinks that me and Dimitri hate Nico, and I don't. I think he's a fantastic player, mechanically a god. But I didn't include him for the same reason I didn't include like Xantares or Twists. Like, they are mechanically extremely skilled players, but they were never the best player in the world. Every person I brought up was the best player in the world at some point. Nico, unfortunately, was just never the best player in the world, in my opinion.